Is all good? Well, hi everyone. I'm very excited to walk you through the workshop called ZeroToDapp, basically onboarding next wave of builders across the world. I'm Abena. My other people on the workshop are Rob, Kevin, Solange, Simone, and Sophia. What if the next wave of Ethereum builders are not where you typically expect them to be? For example, not in New York or in Berlin, but what if they're in Accra, Lagos, Bengaluru, Ho Chi Minh City, or Nairobi? This is exactly why we started ZeroToDapp. It's an initiative where protocol-based learning to onboard builders, because usually when as a builder, you always have like this silo workshop of maybe only Chainlink workshop or the graph or ENS workshop, but what's combining them, having a better overview on working on one dApp and showcasing different parts. That's basically what this initiative was. It started in 2022 before East San Francisco. I mean, the name is not for me, but it started there where the name ZeroToDapp was brought into life. It was a protocol-driven learning experience. Each partner session builds up on the last one, so it's a modular experience. And it's like a school version for 30 minutes theory versus 30 minutes, followed by 30 minutes execution. And this evolved into a collaborate, impactful education format where you can basically apply it to anywhere in the world. It found its way in 2023 to ETHAccra because I picked up my thing. I heard of this initiative and I was like, hey, when I founded ETHAccra in 2023, I was thinking of something, how to onboard especially novice hackers who are not very experienced. And basically all the protocols who are there just built real functionality within 24 hours. I mean, we extended to 24 hours, but 48 hours, but it could also be within 1 day or 3 days or even a week. I think it learns like, it forces hands-on learning, a collaboration, and I think it's more impactful than siloed workshop by each protocol. Now we talk about ETHAccra. I mean, if you know me, it's like most of the time I love hacking. So that's a picture I had of when I was at the DEF CON in Bogota. I founded ETHAccra 2 years ago when I realized that most of the time there were not many African hackers around the world and also not many women. And I was like, if people cannot come to places like here in Cannes or Berlin or anywhere else, why not bring Ethereum there? That's where the initiative started. And it has become a hub of basically the premier Ethereum-focused hackathon in West Africa and the third Ethereum-focused hackathon in Africa in general. I mean, what ETHAccra is, we don't only do like a hackathon itself, but we have like a year-round build ecosystem where we have like our Solidity Mondays. We also launch our, have our ZeroToDapp workshops. We have regular meetups, etc. And the goal is to combine international people also with local people, and then creating a hub for bring up new ideas. And it's also a Pan-African innovation hub. It's based in Accra, but we have participants from around the region. The same way Lisbon is a hub for crypto in West Europe, Accra is a hub for crypto in West Africa. Many people ask me why Ghana. I think this map summarizes very well. Ghana is lesser known, but Ghana is close proximity. Well, both countries, Ghana and Nigeria, are in West Africa. Many of you heard of Nigeria. Nigeria is the most developed, most advanced dev ecosystem in the whole continent. Just put in numbers, Nigeria has like 226 million population, and the median age is 18 years. And Ghana has 35 million, and the median age is also 21 years. I mean, if you put these numbers into place, then you see it's a powerhouse. I mean, just put into context, USA has a population of 300 million. So you just put this into perspective, the amount of people who are there, the young people, tech savvy, etc. But most of the Nigerians, they struggle to get visas, whether it's in Europe, in US, or even within Africa. But Ghana and Nigeria, because of the close proximity, they have both economic area, like the Schengen area, so Nigerians can access Ghana visa-free. And we also have people, like they take the bus from Lagos, they come to Accra, it's like 8 hours ride. It's very, like, it's doable. Close proximity also in cultural alignment. Both countries are English-speaking countries, which is rare in West Africa. Most of the countries in West Africa are French-speaking, but Ghana and Nigeria are English-speaking. We have similarity in music, etc. Ghana is very, like, stable, welcome environment. And I think it serves as a great hub for any organizations to target the West African market, which makes Ghana, like ETHAccra, a good example for hosting hackathons there, and also targeting not only the Ghanaian market, but also the Nigerian market, which I think we all agree is the most important dev market in Africa. Why West Africa? I think, access a frontier market with a booming dev ecosystem, spot untapped talent early. We have students who are coming to our hackathons, meetup, etc., co-creating lasting impact. It's more than just a hackathon, but it's also hiring people also hiring people from this region. Some impressions from previous hackathon. I think this image really sums up how hackathon was in last year. People with a graph bandana, speed on Ethereum back behind. I think that really sums up how it was. It was buzzing, young people, full, energized, and I think, it speaks volume. Some impressions, how it went. You had like hands-on workshops, all building together. Yes, it was like we had like last year, roughly 300 participants. I think we have been able to scale this. Sorry, how are we doing this? We host a 3-day in-person hackathon. We also collaborate with universities where we host workshops. We have like an on-chain student hub at each university that helps us to do workshops, also activate new devs, etc. We partner with leading projects in the ecosystem, Optimism, Celo, Near, Ethereum Foundation, Build, etc. Graphos also supported us. And these are some facts and figures from when we started 2 years ago. So it's like we had a buzzing turnout. We didn't expect it, to be honest, but it looks like people like the idea. It's successful, and that's why we are scaling it. Last year, we were able to onboard more people, and this year we're hosting a 3rd edition. So I think it looks like it's becoming a thing, and it's attracting people from all the region to attend. Next edition, it's, as I said, 3rd till 6th September, again at the University of Ghana. You can go and sign up on look up on the homepage. If anyone wants to come, be as a hacker, sponsor or mentor, or just participate, you're more than highly welcome. I think this format, ZeroToDapp, we will host it again. It will help us to onboard more devs in a more inclusive, educational, protocol-based environment. And let's stay connected. It's can scan my QR code, and I would be really excited to see some of you attending ETHAccra. Now I give it on to Rob.
Hello. Let's see. Is it this way? Oh, this is to join the ZeroToDapp Telegram channel. Is it there? What about that? You see anything? Something's fishy happening here. What about this? Up here. That's to join the ZeroToDapp Telegram channel so we can organize more where you live. So I'm going to talk about Remix. Has anyone here not used Remix? Good. Because in a certain way, this talk is mostly for you. With the rest, you can get a little bored for 10 minutes, and 10 minutes is probably a good amount of time too. But, well, actually, you probably learn some things. We'll find out. Anyway, Remix is the premier onboarding platform for dApp development. And so it's in a browser, so there's no setup. It's very easy to run. It's very easy to deploy contracts. There's some AI integration to check your contracts. And it's a project that's been funded by the EF for 10 years now. Except Remix, the URL is changing to Remix Live in about 6 months because we've spun out of the EF about 36 hours ago. And with those 36 hours comes responsibility. So now we were in a public good inside the EF. Outside the EF, we're going to be continuing to be a public good. And as a public good, we also have to raise some public goods money. So we're in Octant 8, and if any of you are GLM holders, please vote for Remix. Of course, you know, in the Web3 space, there's a lot of catchphrases and stuff, and if you don't know what GLM holders, Octant is, don't worry, because this talk is not about that. It's just introducing you to some basic workflow, and then the rest of everyone else will come on after me and talk about additional workflows on top of this workflow. So like when you develop a smart contract, you have to get a contract or write your own. You have to compile and then fix all the errors. You have to deploy, understand where you're deploying to and where you want to deploy to. And you have to debug your transactions and verify contracts and play with your contracts. So here's a little like walk through the interface. This part, if you've used Remix, maybe you'll be a little bored, but maybe you'll learn something here. Can I use a little, oh, look at that. This is the icon panel. So it's sort of like VS Code, if you know VS Code. You know, the icon panel, side panel, main panel. Here's the Solidity compiler, where it's chosen here on the side panel. If you click this button over here, it'll pop over to the right side. So there's a right side panel. There's an AI chat. If you click the Ask Remix AI because of the compiler error, it'll tell you the answer in the AI chat bot. There's some tutorials in Remix. So you can learn Solidity inside of Remix, and there's also, well, I'll get into some other tutorial parts of Remix later. So let's get some files in to Remix. You go to the hamburger menu in the File Explorer, and then you go create using templates. And then you select your template, and then it appears. And then you get this template in, and you may not understand what it's doing. So either you can click the robot button, or you right-click on the code in the editor, and you can get the explain this code, or explain this contract, or explain this function. Also in the editor, you'll see like gas usage in the editor after you compile the contract. You can clone repos easily. Just put the URL in. And you can start with an empty file by clicking the empty, the new file icon in the File Explorer. And then you have to know that there are no accounts in Remix. At least they're not yet. That may be coming, but there's no storage. So you should push to a remote repo or local repo, and you can connect Remix to your hard drive with a daemon called RemixD, or you can use Remix Desktop, which is just about to be released. And the cool thing about that is you have access to your native terminal, so you can run Git just off your, inside of Remix natively. You can download compilers and work offline. You can use a browser wallet, which is kind of unique in desktop apps. And you can like use Hardhat Foundry, Remix, Cursor. You can code in whatever IDE, in whatever environment editor you want, and then do the Web3 operations in Remix. And then you should check out all the plugins, because there are lots of them. This one is for the Remix guide that the arrow is pointing to. And there's like a whole mess of videos. So if you don't know how to use Remix, just check those videos out, and like the intro to the Remix interface or basic workflows will get you up to speed really quick. Learneth is that tutorial plugin that I told you about. You can compile. I have no idea how long I'm taking either. The Solidity compiler, you just click the button to compile. And then beneath it, it'd be where your compiler errors are. But I'm not going to show you errors. I'm going to show you shortcuts. So there's the, Control S or click the play button. And then you can get the ABI out of your contract. But probably a lot of beginners don't know what an ABI is, or what a provider is, or what a smart account is, or what a EIP 721 signing is. But in ZeroToDapp, in a full-on session, we'd be going through all these, and there'd be a lot of time to be asking questions and getting up to speed on all the catchphrases. Anyway, and deploying in Remix is pretty easy. You just, if you want to, first you have to choose the environment, which is sort of another catchphrase, but you have to choose where you're going to deploy it to, and you have to choose which contract you're going to deploy, and you'd have to choose the value that you're going to send with the transaction. So Remix comes with a simulated chain, and you can fork this any chain into here. So you could fork mainnet or any L2 into the simulated chain, and then you can share the state when you push your repo to GitHub, and you can pin contracts here. And here's the environment choices. So you can collect with Wallet Connect, injected like any browser wallet, any local chain, any node provider, and you just select the contract and deploy. So then you can see the debugger after every successful or unsuccessful transaction, and you can debug it there. And there's the debugger. So if you're just playing for the first time and you want to see what like opcodes are and how to just very quickly, a beginner can get in, understand like the elements of what's going on in the contract at a deep level. And then you can interact with the contract's functions. And you can also load in deployed contracts into Remix as long as you have the ABI. And when you open up a deployed contract, you might see a blue button, which is for just a lookup, so it doesn't cost any gas. Orange ones are saving something to the chain, and red ones you're sending value with the transaction. And then you can open up that further and put the inputs in individually, so it makes it a little bit easier. And then you can just grab the address, and then you can verify your contract, and then you can go on to the next speaker.
Yes, and wow, I use Remix since I started in 2017. I do workshops and boot camps, so long of them, and I prefer to use Remix all the time because you don't need to install nothing else in your computer. It's only the wallet, and then you start. And when I do this on this way, I'm focusing only in what I must teach and not create problems with environments and computer that sometimes is not working, installing this or that. So I love Remix. This is my favorite tool. And I think is not, the 3 I know is, I will go to the 4, then we go to the 3, is this? Probably yes. Okay. So let's talk about Chainlink and how I use Remix. And what's Chainlink, by the way? This is me. I am Solange Gueiros, and I'm telling you how to connect the blockchains with all the information that we have outside, especially because think that the blockchain is like an island. It's an isolated network. And how can I get everything that's outside of that? That means make the blockchain really meaningful. And this is my goal of you. So when you talk about oracles, think about all the data sources and external resources that you do like to use inside your smart contract, inside the blockchain, like the temperature, some satellite information, or from my watch, or from sports or weather. I'm doing a live demo with you now using the weather and any kind of financial information. I can use all of this with oracles. So Oracle will be the middle to bring this information to use inside your smart contract. But if you have this like being only one node bring this information, this can be a huge problem for you because this can be compromised. So when you think about Oracle, always you should use a decentralized Oracle network. So must be more than one node that's getting your information to bring for you with consensus to bring this to your smart contract, to use this inside your smart contract. And this is what is Chainlink. Chainlink is not a blockchain, it's a decentralized network of oracles, different kind of oracles for you. And what kind of oracles do you have? When you talk about especially quotes, you can get prices using data feeds or data streams or getting reserves from other chains or from banks. For example, BitGo use proof of reserve to prove their reserves in Bitcoin when they are minting, issuing the WBTC. It's one example of this. Or you can have communication between blockchains using CCAP. Or automate the execution of some function in your smart contract because like the smart contract cannot call itself. You must, if you'd like to do something in a time-based or with some trigger, you must have automation that, okay, you could go simply do you clicking or have a bot or have a decentralized system that do that in a way that we are still being decentralized. Or even maybe you need the random numbers to your smart contract and you can use VRF to do that. One that I put in the last one here is functions, because for me, I love functions because imagine how many APIs that existing in Web 2 do you know? A lot. All the world of systems that are not in blockchain yet, and they have APIs. I'd like to use this information inside my smart contract. Imagine that you can execute a JavaScript code calling these APIs and bring the information to your smart contract. Is this? This is Chainlink function, and I'm using this now with you. This is my goal, to do this live. And this is the live demo. I'd like to get the weather. I'm using a weather API. Inside my smart contract, this was from some days ago in Cannes, was 25 degrees. And if you'd like to do this later, we can share this with you, but this is like a simulation that I have over there. And let's go. Let's go to the simulation first and then do this live. So this is the simulation with my code, the JavaScript code. And let's see, I don't know what I have here. I have São Paulo. Let's go to UBDs. And then I must verify that I am a real person. Maybe not. Let's see. Yes, I can. So running this, and probably in a few minutes, here we are, 31 degrees now. Woohoo! Is this? But how I'm using this? I'm using this inside my smart contract with Remix. So here I am on Remix, and I'm connecting with the functions network to do that, like to call the JavaScript code that is exactly here, okay? And when I get this result, I'm using this result in some NFTs. So I create this collection, and I can decide after I get the information of the weather if I'm minting a new NFT or if I'm updating some of these NFTs. For example, I have one of Cannes that I made it, I think, midnight, and the forecast was that should rain, but it seems not. So let's update this. We can do this live now. I already deployed everything. I don't have so much time now. So if I go here in deploy and run transactions where I can interact with smart contracts, I have this that I got in São Paulo a few minutes ago. Let's go to Cannes again. So I'm getting the temperature. It means that this JavaScript code will be executed. And you saw that this is the API. You can see here the API that I made a few minutes ago as well. And okay, I made the request to the network. This is the Chainlink functions. No, this is the Chainlink functions that you can see my smart contracts that are consuming that, even the requests. And it seems that it was fulfilled so fast now. Let's see. I must update this probably. But let's come back here and see. Last city, Cannes, last temperature, 31 degrees. It's here, the same information that you saw over there. So now I'd like to update my NFT. I don't know which of them. This is the index 1, the token ID number 1. I can see in the URL down. So now I'd like to update the NFT 1. I could create a new one, but let's update exactly to you see the concept of a dynamic NFT as well that I'm updating live. And let's see if it's updated. Yes. So if I come back here, probably didn't change. I must refresh all the data that I have here. Let's refresh. And by the way, I know that because of some cache problems, sometimes I update. You'll be refreshed and come back the wrong image, okay? I know that, but the information will be right. If you see this now, you can see that like midnight, it was 26 degrees and this. Let's see if it changed. Oh, sun, and come back, but this is a, I don't know how to fix this cache, not yet, but here, 31 degrees now. And if I go to the list of all my NFTs, here you'll be right. So Ken's now sunny day with us. So is this, my goal with you was to show this is in our presentation, the source code as well. I made this in the morning, 10 a.m., the first workshop with more details and create everything. This is how we made the simulation, the smart contract itself, open directly on Remix. And if you'd like to know more, go to the Developer Hub. This is me. And let's go to Simon. It's here? After, okay. Thank you. Ines.
Hello. Oh, nice. So yeah, now we saw how to get how to write smart contracts, but I think the most important part now is how to make it accessible for users, and that's where I jump in. So hi, my name is Simon. I just joined ENS as a developer relations in June, so it is my first presentation. I hope I do everything right. But Greg, who does these presentations also at the hackathon on the weekend, was so kind and give me the slides, so like the credits go to Greg. But yeah, I'll run you through ENS. So who knows what ENS is in the room? So, and do you know on the background how it works? Like, you know, yeah. And for example, like primary name resolutions, do you know how that work? Okay. See, I think the interesting thing about ENS is like most people kind of know it, like there's easy stuff about it, but there's also like some very complicated parts. I don't dive deep into the complicated parts here because it's like a speed run here, but again, there will be a longer workshop on the hackathon, and when we do these full day ZeroToDapp workshops, then we go deep. So Ethereum is the Ethereum name service, a decentralized permissionless naming protocol that lives in Ethereum, but also on other L2s and scales to the entire internet. And in a nutshell, yeah, it translates these hex addresses into human-readable names. And I think that's important because on the internet, like we never go to an IP address in the browser, right? We always go to google.com or whatever and not to the IP. So I think that is basic, a basic user experience layer on top of how the internet works. And that's also how I think we think should Web3 work, that we interact with names and not with numbers. And that's where ENS actually jumps in. So this is explained. So we say like everywhere where you can put an IP address, browsers use DNS. So everywhere where you interact with an address on-chain, you should be able to use an ENS name. Okay, and so actually that already works pretty well. So like EtherScan supports it, most wallets supports it. Basically, it became a basic infrastructure for Web3, and it's very easy to use. Quickly, there are two processes to think about. Like the one is the forward resolution. That's a standard. It's name to address. Usually use that in a wallet. When you want to send money to someone, then you ask them for, hey, can you give me your ENS name? Then they give you the ENS name, you get a name. In the background, it resolves to the address. You have an address and can send money to or interact with that address. So for example, Also, I learned that on the POAP app, you can now send the POAPs directly to the person. So for me, that's actually pretty convenient. I can just send the POAPs to the people that I meet and that I don't meet without actually needing them to do something. Then the other thing, I think equally important, but a little bit more complex on the tech side, is the reverse resolution. Here we look at addresses and want to find out the name. Mostly the primary name, because like one address can have multiple names pointing to it, but only one primary name. So that's like, here it already gets a little bit complicated. But that's cool. That's basically what you see on Block Explorer. You see the reverse resolution. You don't see addresses, you see names, and that's what I think is also very important. But we think also ENS is more just a name. It's not just a username. It's not just a domain name. It's actually a full profile. And as you can see here, so Skrill.eth lives on all these different platforms, OpenSea, Rainbow, Sora, Etherscan, and whatnot, and it's always the same. It's always the same handle, and so we have these interoperable profiles that work between different systems and different apps. And if you build an app, you can use those too. So we see that on Matcha here, for example. But as I said, it's more than just names. It's not just like name to address, it's full profiles. So when you look at Greg's profile, that's on the ENS app, actually, we see he has a profile picture. He has like a bio. He has a location, New York, where he's lived, a website, social media accounts linked, addresses linked, other records linked. Even you can upload, you can link a IPFS hash and have a static website delivered through an ENS name. So that's super powerful. Also for all the developers, these other records, like it's free. These are text records that you can use in your application and store whatever you want in there. So basically, you don't need like to create new user systems and profiles in your application. You can just say like, okay, log in with your ENS name and then start to store your application-specific data directly on ENS on that user. It's very powerful. But even more, and also a lot of people don't know that, is you can store addresses for different chains behind that. So with Greg's one, we saw it's always the same address on all these different chains stored. And that's kind of like sometimes a little bit the mindset of the users. They think like, yeah, it's always the same name, but it's not true, right? Like as soon as you have smart accounts, they might or might not have the same address on different chains. And that actually led to very weird stuff that people send money on Optimism and assumed that the same address on Ethereum also controls that on Optimism, and then it was gone. But ENS also has an option to solve that. In order, you see on my name, there is a different address recorded for Ethereum mainnet than on Arbitrum. So like even if you have, if you are multi-chain in the EVM world, you can link different addresses. I think it's very important. But also on top of that, it also supports other chains like Solana. So we can use ENS to store Solana addresses, and most wallets also support that to send Solana through ENS names. And then people also say like, oh, Ethereum name service, so that's only Ethereum, but we are multi-chain. And .eth always talks about Ethereum. I already said like it's multi-chain, we can have Solana, but also it doesn't necessarily need to be .eth. It can be also .box or actually also .com. Like every domain that is enabled with DNSSEC can be linked into ENS and then used there as your profile or whatever. And then even you can create subdomains for your users. It's a tool set that's super flexible for different use cases that I would recommend you checking it out. Yes, so why? Again, like users of Crypto Power Experience should never interact with hex addresses that can lead to problems. And then I want to kind of showcase one of the ecosystem builders, which is Nscribe, who focuses on solving that problem that we say, or also they say very loudly, every smart contract that we interact with should have a primary name set on ENS, because that makes it secure, right? And they create a system that makes that. So I walk you through. So what I do, and probably all of you that interact on-chain, I have that pop-up, and it says, you interact with this address, 0x253. Like, just looking at that address tells me nothing about if this is secure or not. then I think even in some wallets that get harder to then actually go to a block explorer to find out what is that address. And usually I go to a block explorer, look at that, start to go in there. Oh, okay, is that good? Is the contract verified? Maybe I have time to quickly glance over the contract, and then I do my interaction, especially when it's a lot of money involved. But I think it shouldn't be like that. And also with hex addresses, like spoofing and poisoning attacks, we saw that a lot, because if you don't do these double checks, it could be that the front end is compromised, sends you a wrong address, and then yeah, money is gone. So I don't think we should do that. We need to have a better solution, and that's where ENS comes in, and Nscribe helps, is that we can have now primary names for addresses that resolve into the wallets, and we directly see, okay, that name is resolved. And we know that because of the ownership that ENS provides, is because this is a .eth, the ENS.eth address. Whoever owns ENS.eth is in control of that address. So like no hacker can spoof that. They would need to be able to, I don't know, attack that registry or something like that, which I think is super hard. So that's actually pretty cool. So Nscribe helps and makes it safer. And so you can check it out. I think, yeah, here. So there's like, it's a nice interface. You can go. It helps with also verifying contracts with Sourcify, Block Scout. We can link audits. We can link APIs and so on and so forth. It's actually evolving. Actually, Connor is here in the room, so you can talk with him. He will also have a talk at the ENS Happy Hour tonight to dive a little bit deeper. This was just like a quick rundown. And yeah, so check out Nscribe, XYZ, app.nscribe. And if ENS is also sponsoring the hackathon on the weekend, so for all the hackers, come by, hack with ENS. We have a booth. Greg has a longer talk. And yeah, that was it from my side. Thank you. And now to Kevin.
I'm the guy who didn't put his slides in the thing at the time, so I'm going to use my own laptop. Cool. Hey, everyone. My name is Kevin Jones. I'm a developer relations engineer working for Edge and Node, working on the Graph protocol. I'm also a core member of the Build Guild. I work on Scaffold ETH, supporting the developer community there. Today, I'm going to talk about the Graph, a little bit like why the Graph exists and why you might use it in your dApp. It's kind of a crucial part of like building a dApp, I think, in like modern terms. Like the original idea of a dApp is you just have like this very basic user interface that you might deploy on, you know, over Cell Cloud. You could deploy it on IPFS if you're being, you know, really Web3 friendly. And then you have your smart contract that you deploy to the blockchain. The problem with that is, as your smart contract is emitting transactions, if you're a good smart contract developer, you have an event, right, for everything that happens in your contract to make sure that your front end is kind of aware of what's going on, right? Well, the problem is that the actual JSON RPC for most blockchains is really not optimized for reading data, especially like if you want to get lots of data, or if you want to be able to like customize the data in a way that's like easy to query. And so you end up with this problem where you start running into performance issues, and you run into issues where you might want to get more advanced data, right? That maybe it's just not coming off an event. We also have this kind of like sea of a mess of like transactions in any block, right? And so it can be very difficult to identify other applications and other smart contracts that you might want to listen to, right? Like if you want to know what's going on with swaps on Uniswap, right? And like understand what liquidity pools are available and like what the average is and stuff like that, you end up having to do like off-chain computation, like with some kind of like other traditional database, right? You also have this history with provenance, like time of like what happens over duration of time on the blockchain. And what we really want to do is like have some way to go back in time and see the history of like what kind of state changes have happened, right, on a smart contract. As an example would be like, you wouldn't really know, you only know someone's current balance of their tokens because you can query their current balance. But if you wanted to know historically over a period of time what their balance was, you would have to, again, do that off-chain, right? And so what we end up is people doing weird stuff like this, where this was actually a real hackathon participant, which was like just trying to get all of the tokens inside of a wallet. And they were doing this by doing this kind of like nasty for loop that is very, very, very heavy when it comes to RPC calls, because you're having to constantly loop. And if you had just a few NFTs in your wallet, it would not be a problem. But if you have someone like a really active Web3 user, you probably have hundreds, if not thousands of NFTs. This could take seconds or even minutes to load. And so this is where the graph comes in, right? The graph is a decentralized protocol for blockchain data. There's over 200 indexers that serve data from the network. There's 100,000 delegators who provide stake to the network to incentivize the network's usage. We have over 10,000 subgraphs on the network. I think this is actually probably more. It's probably closer to like 13,000 now. And we also have over probably 13,000 curators who are providing stake to the network. I'm not going to go too much into the tokenomics of how the graph works, but it is incentivized using the GRT token. And so that's how the network runs. And so the idea is to take this kind of like sea of a mess of blockchain data that's going on and to put these into pools, right? Into like organized, what we call subgraphs. So you can think like every single smart contract might have its own unique subgraph configuration that stores the data and then exposes that data over GraphQL. And so what you're able to do is that same like kind of snippet that we showed earlier, you're able to consolidate that into a very simple GraphQL query, which is very, very easy for front-end developers to incorporate. And there's a lot of flexibility to do like filtering. As you can see here, we're doing like a little bit of a filter to identify the particular owner of that wallet, right? What NFTs they own. And then we're also able to see all the previous owners of a particular NFT as well. So this is what the architecture looks like. You can imagine you have your traditional dApp like you normally would deploy it on like a front end, like Vercel or IPFS. And you still have a smart contract, and users are still interacting with your dApp and proposing transactions to the smart contract. But as your smart contract emits events, this is the magic of the graph, is it has basically a life cycle of indexing the data through what's called graph node, which is a binary that runs. It's written in Rust. And the developer creates these mappings, these WASM mappings. So it's their modules, they're written in assembly script. And what they do is they listen for the events as they come off, and they store them in GraphQL. And then the graph node then exposes all of the data that's stored in GraphQL via GraphQL. So you're completely bypassing the reads from the blockchain, and you're able to just query the GraphQL API directly. So it looks something like this. You might have events on your smart contract. You also might want to get like IPFS or Arweave data. So let's say you have like an NFT, and that NFT emits a hash for IPFS hash, and you wanted to also fetch all that data and store that in the graph. We support that. And these WASM modules are like constantly kind of listening for these events and processing that data and storing it in Postgres. And then here, data consumers can come in using GraphQL, query that data. And what GraphNode does is it has optimized ways where it can actually go back and get the data exactly that it needs and serve it to the user via GraphQL. And so this old style of like, just having a standard user interface and like having issues with read is basically replaced with a middleware layer where the graph sits, right? So the graph is I commonly term it as middleware, and it's this kind of little middle indexing protocol layer. And on top of ENS, so like one of the most popular subgraphs on the network is actually ENS. And so here's a great example. Like if you wanted to find out, like for this query, we're saying, well, what is Vitalik.eth resolved to? And we're able to get all of the information from the actual ENS smart contract that shows the current state of his actual ENS, right? And so if you're using anything in your app and you want to query ENS, this is a great subgraph to query. We also have a really cool integration with Chainlink functions. I think it makes sense to talk about this. I did a talk yesterday where I talked about a cool tool I built called the Graph Builder Basecamp. One of the use cases is where you might want to grab data from a subgraph and then bring it back on chain, or you might just want to like check some data inside of a subgraph and then bring it back on chain, similar to how Solange did the demo with the weather. Well, you can imagine it might be something more important like the price of ETH, right? You might want to like drop that into another smart contract and then maybe create your own like Oracle system or something like that. Chainlink functions give you that power because you can essentially integrate. This is a really good example. If you scan that, it will show you the example of how you could do that with Uniswap, and you can bring that data back on chain. We also have other ways that you can get data on the graph. We have the token API, and this is if you want to get like historical data about token prices, if you want to get like metadata about tokens, like if you're building a wallet. We only support 7 chains right now, but we're adding a lot constantly. So this is a good way if you like can't find something in a subgraph, check the token API. This is just an example of what the data looks like. It's a REST API, and it's got really easy JSON object that lets you query that data. We do balances, transfers, holders, metadata. We also have open, high, low, close for Uniswap, and we're constantly adding this. This is a new product. It's only been out for about 2 months, and it's highly evolving, so keep an eye on that. And then the last thing is we just are announcing Hypergraph this week, which is a new framework for building Web3 applications in a knowledge graph format, and there's going to be a special series of prizes for $5,000 at the hackathon. So if you're hacking, check that out. There's also another $5,000 in prizes just for building on the graph. So $10,000 from the graph. Thank you so much.
Did you update the results? Okay.
They're updated on the slides.
Here's your,
Awesome.
So let's find you. What do you?
Yes,
Do
sir.
you know what I do?
Right there, a little higher. A little higher.
Here. Is this?
Yep. You can start with this one.
Okay.
Test. Oh, totally works. Yay. Hello, everyone. I think I'm the last presentation, right? So excited to be here, and thanks all for coming. So today I am going to be leading a little bit of a workshop / more of an intro, since it's only 10 minutes high level, of how to vibe code on chain. And specifically, I'll be talking about how you can build a dApp in minutes using Celo's MCP. For a little bit of context, I am Sophia. I lead developer relations at Celo, and if I also do a lot of tutorials about building on chain and talk about different on-chain product ideas, so feel free to follow along. All right. Is anyone familiar with the Celo or the Celo ecosystem? Can I just get a quick show of hands? Oh, cool. We got a few. Oh, wow. That's awesome. That's really cool. Typically, I do a little bit of like an intro to what is Celo in case you're completely new. But Celo is an Ethereum L2. We actually used to be an L1, and we recently transitioned to an Ethereum L2 a few months ago, in case you haven't heard. But really what we are trying to do is we're scaling real world solutions and leading a thriving new digital economy for all. So what exactly do we mean by real world solutions, and why are builders coming to Celo to build? Well, one of the biggest apps in the Celo ecosystem is MiniPay. Just another quick show of hands in case, has anyone heard of MiniPay or is familiar with MiniPay? Cool. Slightly less, but still quite a few of you all. So MiniPay is one of the fastest growing stablecoin wallets in the global south, with over 7 million activations and counting. And it's a stablecoin wallet, meaning you can save, spend easily with USDT, USDC, CUSD. It's designed for real world use, and it's built into Opera Mini. So Opera Mini is one of the most popular browsers in Africa, and it's also a standalone app on Android and iPhone, but it's really designed for real world use. Because it's a stablecoin wallet, a lot of the users on this wallet are don't even know they're using blockchain. It's very consumer friendly, very new to crypto friendly. And on this wallet, we have dozens of mini apps driving real world adoption. So we have donation apps, learn to earn, fun games, anything you can think of. And a lot of our builders in our builder ecosystem actually build mini apps, and they get to leverage MiniPay for distribution to the real world. So as you can see, it's really grown in terms of adoption over this past year, which is super exciting to see. And of course, I'm biased, but I think this is one of the best opportunities to gain real world users on your apps. So as an ecosystem, we have definitely been growing a ton and representing a ton of different countries. And one of the really big reasons, too, is that we have specific tooling designed for building mini apps in minutes. And that's specifically what I will be talking about today. I know this audience has a lot of technical background and developer background. That's probably why you're here. But there are a lot of builders that exist outside of just the blockchain ecosystem. There are a lot of Web 2 builders, and even more than that, there's a lot of people that are interested in creating software, creating applications that maybe don't have as technical of a background, but still have amazing ideas, applications, distribution channels, and can really identify unique and good use cases that would also drive real world adoption. So one of our goals as the Celo ecosystem, and one of my goals personally, leading DevRel for the Celo ecosystem, is how can we make it as easy as possible so people with very interesting and unique and great use cases can actually develop applications, get them live on MiniPay, and leverage this distribution channel to create real-world solutions for all. So I will be chatting a little bit of specifically how we do that. We recently launched the Celo MCP. This is a model context protocol, and this MCP is specifically designed for any AI LLM, like if you're using Cursor, you can connect it to Claude and different models, so it knows exactly how to connect with the Celo blockchain, how to build up apps, and how to spin up apps in minutes. Before I jump in, has anyone ever vibe coded before or is familiar with vibe coding? Awesome. To give a quick background in case you're completely new to vibe coding or haven't heard of this term, because of AI, it's getting a lot easier to spin up apps or vibe code or code in general. So I think a lot of it started off with Cursor, where it's like you have your regular IDE, your regular terminal, and instead of having to code and then copy that code and then go back and then ask some questions and debug, you have it all within your IDE, and you can ask it questions that has context of your whole code base. The next step is there's actual tooling like Lovable, Windsurf, Replit, V0 that make it really easy, where you can just straight with a prompt be like, I want to build X, Y, and Z, and it spins up the app for you. If you've ever tried using some of those apps, you'll see that it can be really pretty. It can make an idea turn into something that looks really nice, but they're not always functional. And there's a few reasons why they're not always functional. One, the current way that vibe coding works makes it really great to build front ends. But if you've ever tried to make an actual functional back end, especially if you are not familiar with web development and maybe aren't as familiar around state management and different trade-offs and how to actually optimize information about your users or data on your platform, it can be really hard to correctly prompt one of these vibe coding tools to know how to do that well. And so back-end, a lot of just regular Web 2 developers have had a really tough time creating back-end, using vibe coding tools to create optimized back-ends, and it's creating this unnecessary complexity for new developers. What's really cool, I know a lot of people here are on-chain developers. As you know, a lot of the logic, especially if you're using existing protocols, already exist. And you're using data that already exists on-chain. So oftentimes, when you're creating mini apps or you're creating these types of apps, they're typically front-ends TypeScripts that just connect on-chain via some API. And that really unlocks possibilities for vibe coding. This actually makes it easier to vibe code on-chain than it would be to vibe code a regular Web 2 app or a regular, just a regular app using like a Supabase or some other backend. So this is a super exciting opportunity for all of us who care about on-chain developers. This is how we can pull in all those new people who are excited about vibe coding and maybe don't even know what a blockchain is, but we can tell them, hey, with this, you can actually build with open data and hide the whole thing that is connected to a blockchain. You know, who knows? But with Celo MCP specifically, what we have built is we have custom templates because a lot of our builders are creating like very specific type of things. They're creating mini apps for MiniPay. They're creating identity apps that connect to Self protocol. They're creating mini apps that are able on Farcaster. They have UI components. We have existing UI components that connect to the Celo blockchain. And we have pre-built smart contracts that you can connect, and which works for the majority of like 90% of our applications, kind of can just use these pre-built smart contracts and don't fully have to code their own smart contracts from scratch. And this is all fully functional with just a single prompt or a few prompts. Depends how well you prompt. I'll do a quick demo. I'm not going to walk through, but I have a little bit of a video in case you want to follow along. You can find this at docs.celo.org, or you can follow our YouTube. There's a full 20-minute video where I show you how to install the MCP, the exact prompts I'm using, and how do I spin up an app. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm installing the Celo MCP locally in my terminal. I'm opening up a cursor and I click Add MCP. And now what happens is my cursor has all of this rich context about Celo, about interacting with Celo, about using those components. And if you've ever tried coding on chain without using an MCP, it doesn't really know how to code on chain. A lot of the LLMs don't have this background, and it will be really buggy, and it's a very painful experience. In this tutorial, I prompted it to use Celo Composer to spin up a template, as you can see here. And then I'm prompting it to use the Composer Kit UI to use different components that we've pre-built. And then I'm prompting it to deploy a pre-built contract that we have already with ThirdWeb. And then this is what was ended up being built. This is a 20-minute live thing. So this entire thing from setup to deployment to even publishing on Versal and spinning up myself only took 20 minutes. And what I created was a simple token claimer app. So you can go on here. If you've never, it checks your wallet. If you don't have any claim in your wallet and you're the first time user, you can press claim and you get 10 claim tokens. So it creates a token and a token claiming contract. And you can follow the full step-by-step on our YouTube channel. So that's all. If you're interested in building on Celo or you're currently building on Celo, we absolutely love our builder community and we want to reward you and we want to continue to see you build every month and continuing to improve. We do have a flagship program called Proof of Ship. We run this program every single month and a lot of AI agents go through, review your code, as well as we have the community who vote on their favorite projects and you get a piece of the monthly prize pool that we have. So here's a little QR code if you want to sign up or register your interest. And you can also follow Celo Devs on Twitter to get all the latest updates and all of that. So yeah, that's all for a Celo MCP.
Yeah, I think we're done. Thanks for coming. I think you had a great overview of how ZeroToDapp would look in practical, and we have planned alpha, longer format in Buenos Aires at DevConnect, where we actually have more hands-on practical session. So if you have any questions, we're around. Thanks for coming.